The Speaker of Nigeria's House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, has faulted the decision of the federal government to disregard the Supreme Court order on the issue of currency swap. The Speaker, while reacting to President Muhammadu Buhari's nationwide broadcast, said though the President's directive was a step in the right direction, the federal government could not afford situations that could suggest a wanton disregard for the rule of law. End of quote. In a statement he personally signed, the Speaker said, amid the hardship Nigerians currently face, it is necessary for government to take steps that will fully address the situation rather than using a piecemeal approach.
Well, joining us now is Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Paul Harris Ogbole. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight tonight.
My pleasure.
Well, first of all, nice to get your thoughts on how you reconcile the president's speech today, his position, side by side, the Supreme Court's ruling on that interim injunction. What's your take on that? Yeah, let's hear that first before we, go on with other issues.
Well, yeah. First, I'd like to say that the president's speech is fairly conciliatory, in the sense that he first admits the difficulties, the process, the program, the policy has created, and the challenges, the pain the citizenry are foisted with. And he was sympathetic, and he, short of using the word apology, you could feel that he had the sense of empathy for Nigerians. And he also tried to encourage people to bear the situation for a little while longer. And he's setting in place machinery to ameliorate the challenges faced by Nigerians. So to an extent, you would say that he has come to terms with the feelings, the pains that Nigerians feel. And that, in a way, is commendable. And however, you can see that he also acknowledged the essence of rule of law in the scheme of things, and how that pans out in the light of the fact that, by his own admission, he's aware that there's a case in court or cases in court, and he intends to abide by the rule of law, which, like I said, is
What is he abiding by the rule of law?
However,
it's been his position has been described as flouting, the rule of law, flouting the principles of separation of powers. And the question is there a conflict between the executive and the judiciary? What does it really mean for democracy?
Well, the first part of it is what he says,
right,
which is, the part which is conciliatory. Now, the other part of it is, in the light of the fact that there is an order of court which says that parties should maintain status quo, and that the terminal date for the currency swap or the status of the legal tender of 200 naira notes, 500 naira notes, and 1,000 naira notes be suspended pending the next hearing of the motion for interlocutory injunction and the other processes. Now, when that motion is yet to be heard, it means that the lifespan of the interim order of court, which orders a suspension in the terminal date, subsists. Invariably, if we are to apply rule of law, stricto sensu, it means that all the currencies, 200, 500, and 1,000, remain legal tender and should operate side by side the new currency, That's basically what it means.
And that's where your colleagues and some other Nigerians are concerned, that the president lacks the powers to, cherry pick and say you're extending the validity. Because I'm looking at the CBN Act, which clearly says that the president has no powers to extend such validity.
Now, after we look at the position of law vis-a-vis as stated by the court, by the Supreme Court, the next thing to look at is the actions of the president. Does it constitute an affront to the order of court? It's a tricky one. First, clearly, he has taken certain steps, which are steps in the right direction. Now, how far did those steps go? To my mind, the steps have not gone far enough to comply entirely with the provisions or the order of court. The question to ask again is, has he flouted the order of court? He spoke specifically about 200 naira notes. He was silent about 500 naira notes. He was silent about 1,000 naira notes. But the takeaway again is that he extended the period of duration or coexistence and validity or serving as legal tender, the currency 200 naira notes, to 10th of April. Now, that's a mixed bag.
So
at
what point, since it's a mixed bag, let's just pick one. At what point can we say the president has flouted the laws on this?
Now the trick here is this. The case is running, it's pending. And the order of court for now is that all currencies coexist as legal tender.
Yes.
Now, if you put a terminal date of 10th of April, it means you're telling the court and telling Nigerians that, well, for 200 naira notes, you will exist side by side until, but how, you don't know when the terminal date of the case, we don't even know when the order of court will lapse. We don't even know when the court, because at the last adjourned date, which was yesterday, the case has been further adjourned without hearing the interlocutory application, because other parties have joined afresh and they've been ordered to file their paper processes. You understand? So where we are now is, it's a bit of a tricky situation, right? You cannot say that he has flouted the order specifically, but the signal, the body language, the indication is one that has not gone far enough.
Let me take the adjective that you use now specifically. So specifically speaking, doesn't it look like the president has flouted saying AB, that is the 1,000 naira, 500 naira, ceased to exist. But for the Supreme Court specifically, the Supreme Court was categorical about it, saying all categories of those monies that we have changed should run side by side with the new notes. But the president has chosen to say, no, I will only take this.
I don't think he said
lower, no. By extending the validity of the lower denomination amongst the three of them, which is the 200 naira. Doesn't that imply that the president is saying that this is the only one I'm taking out of what the Supreme Court has said?
Or are you saying there can be a partial compliance to a court ruling? In this case,
no. There has to be a full compliance. There's no doubt about that. The president has to comply in total. There's no cherry picking. There's no ifs, buts, and maybes. No, you go the whole hog. In complying with orders of court. But the question again is that, will you say that he has flouted the order specifically by his words that 500 naira notes will not be legal tender, or 1,000 naira notes will not be legal? He's silent about it.
So what would be your position then? I mean, because you're asking the question, would you say that he has flouted, the ruling of the Supreme Court or not? That's the question that's begging for answers. What would you say in this regard? Are you saying there's not been a contempt at all? If there's a contempt, who then really should take responsibility for that? Is it the federal government? I mean, what are the options really before the Supreme Court in punishing the contentious party?
Well, in the case of the president, even if he were a contemnor, we know that he enjoys immunity. And but before you get even to that, because of course we're looking at contempt proceedings being quasi-criminal in nature, and so before you talk about trying the president or summoning him to court and whatever, his immunity clause on that does apply, and he would enjoy that, and I'm sure he will waive it at any point in time. But the body language that we see in the statement of the president, one is the compassion he has shown. The other part is the recognition of the fact that there is an order of court which needs to be obeyed, and the acknowledgement that rule of law should govern our country. And compliance, to my mind, has not been full. It hasn't been full. But that has not said, that hasn't indicated that there will be a non-compliance with the rest of the currencies. And the reason why perhaps the 200 naira currency is one that has been, because probably that's the least in the currencies, and that's the one that most affects the masses.
Well, Harris, Ogbole, many thanks for your time.